Interview.
Hey guys, Jan here. We're in Seattle. I've got Brian Fleming from Sucker Punch. Brian, tell us a little bit about the content that you're showing here in Infamous 2 today.
So we're showing about 3 new things. The first is the Behemoth, one of these really large-scale enemies that moves freely through the world. On the second mission, we're showing a new area of town. We have a big mission with some of the ice enemies in an area we call Gasworks Park. It's actually inspired by a park not too far from here. And then in the back, we're showing user-generated content and some of the missions that are going to be live tomorrow in the beta. For the people lucky enough to be in the beta, you know, we've got 25, 30-odd missions that are the best we've created, and we're really looking forward to what the community can create.
Tell us a little about a new Marais. It is a new city, and it's very different to Empire City, both in layout and the way that you approach design. Tell us, especially water. I noticed that water plays into it and isn't necessarily Cole's best friend.
So when we were designing the game, we really wanted to go somewhere new. We didn't want to just do more levels in Empire City, and so going south to New Marais made a lot of sense to us. You know, New Marais is inspired by the cities of the Gulf Coast. It's a very warm city with a real sort of eclectic mix of architecture. You know, you have the really organic swamps up against classic sort of architecture, you know, mansions and the French Quarter, and then you have a large industrial complex, and so you get all of that kind of in a believable reality, and that's where New Marais really was inspired, you know, by New Orleans. And so you have that, and then you mentioned water, and water's a useful device for us. You know, we have a hugely powerful superhero in Cole McGrath. He's going to get even more powerful. Well, we need some things that balance that set up his weaknesses. You know, you can't have this overwhelmingly powerful guy just sort of mastering the city, and so it is important to have very simple, basic weaknesses that play into the character's design and the play experience. And then, of course, we're also meeting Cole with these huge monsters and other things that kind of balance him out.
Now, you mentioned the huge monsters, and you are showing a couple of here today. Give us a run through for anyone that isn't here and maybe isn't seeing the demo that we're seeing.
So obviously the big baddie here today, we actually teased him even at E3, is the Behemoth, and this is a very large creature from the swamp somewhere, and today he's destroying a big section of the French Quarter, and Cole's doing battle with him, trying to feed him. And you know, this is really one of the design philosophies, making sure we had a real variety of scales. So you have enemies that are sort of, you know, man-sized, and then you have, you know, a level up from that, and then a level up from that, and then a level up from that. You know, let's really experiment with scale. And so the Behemoth is the example of the largest in scales.
Brian, tell us a little bit about morality. We heard today at the studio that there'll be 4 different versions of some cutscenes. Does that mean that it'll be a little less black and white in terms of good and bad karma?
You know, I think that for us, karma really drives, it's sort of central to the question of what is it to be a superhero. And I think very much like the first game, we want to give you powers and say, you know, will it corrupt you? I mean, I think that's a very interesting philosophical question. And so we want to do that again. And our goal was to take everything we did in the last game and just do a better job of it. So one of the criticisms of the last game was, hey, I want a more different experience if I go good and bad. So unlike the first game, there are 2 distinctly different endings to this. Unlike the first game, there's a relatively large amount of the game content that whichever way you go, you're going to leave the other part behind. And that's part of the trade-off. It makes those choices meaningful, that you're like, wow, I'm actually not going to get to play that mission. I mean, you could go back and play the game again to see it, but you're going to have to leave some things behind, and that makes those choices have weight. So to me, it's not about, you know, how many variations of a cutscene. It's about making you feel in your heart a little tiny bit of pain when you're leaving something undone.
Brian, thank you very much for chatting with us. When can people get their hands on Infamous 2? Which platform? I think we know that one. Yeah,
so it's a PS3 game, of course, exclusive on the PlayStation 3. It is available if you're very lucky to be in the beta. The beta starts tomorrow, April 12th, but in stores June 7th, almost entire worldwide on June 7th.
Fantastic, Brian. Thank you, and that's a look at Infamous 2 coming out on the PlayStation 3 soon, and check GameSpot.com for more information.